So this is an intuitive channeled message. I haven't gotten one of these in a while. Well, I have, but I haven't said anything in a while. So I felt guided to speak on this because it happened, like I got synchronicities about it. So I will say overall, I feel like this message is about the lightheartedness and light spiritedness that we must take through every phase of our lives. So I'm going to tell you what this is about. So this morning I went to the store, and when I got back in the car, I was ready to back out of the parking spot, and I looked up briefly and I saw a single bubble that was it was a good sized bubble, and I saw it moments before it hit the ground. Maybe I saw it for 5 seconds, and then it was like it was on its way down. I looked around. I was like, where did this bubble come from? I didn't see anybody. But it was beautiful, right? I love bubbles. I think most people do enjoy bubbles, and I don't think you're ever too old to enjoy the beauty of bubbles. And I was like, oh, look, a bubble. Wow. Where did it come from? And then 5 seconds later hits the ground. Okay, that was nice. I'm gone. Like I have another place to go to. So that was the first instance. And then later on when I got home, minding my business, I get on Facebook and I see a group is selling something. And so it's like a dance group. And like I remember I seen their dance performance before, and they had props, and their props were these huge bubbles, like ones that you can like roll on top of and stuff like that. But it was a prop, it was a dance prop. So, and they were selling it, but the show was called Lighter Than Air. Okay, whatever. I was like, that's interesting, but that's too like, okay, of course I would see something like that. That's not that random and out of place. So I mind my own business. I'm like hours and hours pass, and I am working on something, and I decide like, okay, I want to go outside because today is a random warm day. It is getting close to spring. It is March 4th today, and I was just going to step outside just to see how it felt. And I will put this clip in because I just thought it was just so funny, and I knew I had to say something about it. But I look across to the other building, and there were two kids on the balcony, and I've never seen kids out there on that balcony. I didn't even know people lived over there right there, because I've never seen anybody. And there were these two little girls, and they were blowing bubbles. I'm like, ain't no way. So I'm like, okay, Spirit, I hear you, but what are you actually saying for real? I don't quite know, other than the feeling we feel when we see a bubble, and kind of understanding, like we understand when we see a bubble that it's not going to last forever, but we still enjoy it anyway. And if you're a kid in that position, you understand, like you blow the bubble, you enjoy the bubble, you awe and play around with it, but it's going to hit another surface, it's going to hit the ground, and it's going to burst, right? And it's okay. And because we know we're just going to blow another bubble and the fun is in the blowing of the bubble and enjoying seeing it float around and even popping it out of the air ourselves. And there's no sadness when it's, I would say, transitioning. So I did look it up and like, what's the spiritual meaning of a bubble? Like other than just like the feeling of a bubble. And I got to a website where it gave me 12 spiritual meanings. So I am going to read that just in case anybody else needs to hear it. But for me, it felt like immediately it felt like transitioning when it's a bubble, going from being in the bottle, then being free and allowing just the wind to take you wherever the wind decides to take you. And you can pop midair, or you can make it all the way to the next journey and hit the ground. But when you do hit the ground, you're transitioning to a new phase, like a phase of matter. Instead of being like this light thing, now you're changing into like liquid on the ground. And that could be sad, but then you can think, oh, well, now I get to interact with different elements. This is a different phase. Now when it rains, I get to mix in with the rainwater, and then we get to evaporate. And now suddenly I'm part of the water cycle. I don't know. And I get to be something else, and I get to experience other things. And that's not sad. That's not a sad thing. But when we're thinking about actual transitions in our lives, and understanding Well, it doesn't feel like we're understanding in the moment, but things can be going really well and you can be happy to be a bubble. And this is a metaphor, of course. And that's all good. And then the cycle comes to an end, and that can feel really bad, instead of seeing it from a different perspective and understanding that, no matter if it's good or bad, it don't last forever. And keeping that lighthearted nature, whether it's going from what seems to be good and fun to now I'm on the ground and this isn't as fun and ill, and like I'm now in a different phase of life, and this sucks, but there's a new opportunity there. There's a new phase here that should also be seen and experienced kind of in that same energy of lightheartedness and fun, or at least try to. It's just as important and it can be just as fun as the bubble phase when you're floating around in the air, or like you're the little girl or little boy blowing the bubbles. How can we feel that same feeling in a new cycle? Endings only bring new beginnings, type of thing, right? Now, it is easier whenever we're going from something that is unpleasant, an unpleasant cycle, and that cycle comes to an end, and now we get to be something else. Like maybe we're starting from being in the bottle, sitting on the shelf, and then the kid comes around and opens you up, and then suddenly, instead of being a liquid in a container, now you're a bubble and now you're free. That of course, that's easy to accept, but it's harder when it's the other way around. But understanding that, look, even if we're at this low, or even if we're not in the most fun place, how can we make it as fun as possible? How can we enjoy it with that same childhood wonder and fun and excitement as we did in the previous phase? And that helps us to really never be in a slump. I know it's not as easy. It's easier said than done, but I think that's the message here. Trying our best to accept and appreciate every phase that we go through. Especially right now, we see a lot of transitions happening, whether it's in the government, the world, and maybe jobs. A lot of people are losing their jobs, and it's been very hard to transition because it kind of came out of nowhere, right? Just like a bubble, you never really know where they'll land, or when and where and how the bubble will burst. And I can understand that it is super, super scary to have transitions happen that we weren't expecting and we weren't prepared for. But I have to believe, and I want you to believe, that the transition is going to be worth it. And there's something even better. There's an even better cycle. And try your best to stay positive in the transition, even if it looks like it's for the worst. Even weather-wise, like I said, I was going to go outside and sit. It was a little bit too chilly, but it is warming up. But just like we go from winter to spring, there's beauty in that, right? We love when it gets warmer. At least I do. But also with that comes some pollen, and the insects and the bees are out, and the wasps. I can't even enjoy sitting outside for real. And then you get sick, and then you get the allergies. It's like, well, I don't know. I can still enjoy or find the beauty in it turning spring, just like I can find the relief of the heat when it goes from summer to fall, or from fall to winter. Because even though I don't like the cold, I love snow. And so I think it's kind of like, well, make sure we find the beauty in each season. At least try. So I'm going to read. I know it's been a while. I've already been yapping for 9 minutes, but I'm going to read through the 12 spiritual meanings and symbolism of bubbles, just in case somebody needs to hear it. And this is from just a random website, but feel free to look it up yourself if this is resonating with you, if this message is resonating. Let me see here. this has 12, but let me read the beginning. It says, like the fleeting nature of life itself, bubbles burst forth, shimmer, and disappear, leaving behind a trail of wisdom and symbolism. From the impermanence of all things to the beauty in the present moment, bubbles offer a unique window into the human experience. And I want to just pause real quickly just to reiterate that the bubble was alone, all by itself, nobody around, no other bubbles around, nobody around. I didn't see anybody, for real. And the bubble was a singular bubble. And that's how I know it's more about a personal journey and a personal experience, and really like how you deal with your own phases of life without anybody else's input or anybody else's like support or anything like that. So let me keep going. So it says, number 1, bubbles remind us that everything in life is temporary, including ourselves. That's a little bit morbid, but yeah, that's true too. We're not here forever. So making the best out of every single moment and understanding that, you know, we get these experiences, and how beautiful is it to be able to have these emotions and like even to, you know, be able to have taste buds so we can taste and feel the warmth of the sun on our skin. Like these are like the small things that we could be grateful for. And that's how we find the beauty in transitioning or going to a different phase that we're not used to all of a sudden. It's like just remembering that these experiences are fleeting. The very nature of our humanity is fleeting. We're not here forever, even if it feels like a long time. Like, I can't wait to get off this earth. This earth is ghetto. I understand. But this reminds me of that movie Soul. It's a Disney movie, I do believe. And I really love that movie. So if you have not watched that, I definitely suggest you check it out. But, and it's been a minute, so pardon me if I'm getting this wrong. But when the guy became like not a human anymore and he was basically a soul or a spirit, I think he was kind of saying like how he missed the taste of pizza and the ability to play his instrument and like to touch things and to taste things. Like, you don't have senses as a soul, but you do as a human. So even the small things like being able to feel and even have these emotions and have these thoughts and be able to taste good food and hear good music and smell your favorite candle and yada, yada, yada. I'm just trying to think of more things. Remember that YOLO. Okay, let's move on. Next one, number 2. Like bubbles, our attachments to people, things, and desires are fleeting and can burst at any moment. Number 3, bubbles symbolize the fragility of our ego and the importance of humility. Ooh, interesting. The number 4, the unpredictable nature of bubbles mirrors the unpredictability of life's twists and turns. And I guess that kind of goes together with number 3 because, you know, you never really know what's going to happen and we're not as in control sometimes, especially when things like, I'm not going to give examples, but you know, sometimes just things just happen and it's like, well, I did not expect that. Number 5, bubbles show us that beauty can be found in the fleeting nature of life. And I think that's kind of what I was referring to, like even using your senses or being able to feel the sun or hear the waves or get away on vacations. Like it might not last forever, but even if people hate the cold and hate the snow, watching the snow fall from the sky is such a beautiful thing, but it'll be melted the next day. Number 6, like bubbles, we must learn to let go of our attachments and desires to find true freedom. It's like a bubble that flies, that roams in the air and just goes with the flow. And even the feeling that you are when you're a child who really has no sense of responsibility and you're just free and it's just fun and we're just blowing bubbles and that, you know, and I'm not attached to the longevity of this. I'm not attached to certain things, and it's all fun and free. Like I always say, footloose and fancy free. That's something I say a lot at the time. So maybe that means something to somebody. Number 7, bubbles remind us to live in the present moment, for the future is uncertain and the past is gone. Number 8, bubbles demonstrate that our control is an illusion and we must learn to surrender. Yep. Number 9, bubbles symbolize the cycle of birth, growth, decay, and rebirth. Yep, just like seasons and just how those things naturally go through their own phases. But we find the beauty in that, right? We have to find the beauty of our life as well. Number 10, like bubbles, suffering is temporary and can be transcended. Right, correct. Number 11, bubbles encourage us to be mindful and present in the moment, lest we miss the beauty. I feel like some of these are kind of repetitive, but right now it's 4 for 4 on my clock, so maybe that means something. And last, number 12, bubbles remind us that everything is interconnected and our actions have consequences. That's very, very interesting. I don't know how a bubble demonstrates that. But speaking of 4 for 4, right before I sat down and I was like, I was asking, what does this mean? Other than my intuitive feeling of what the bubbles represented. And when I had sat down and asked that question, I looked at the time and it was 4:11, and like 2 seconds later it turned 4:12. So I looked up what 4:11 meant. So let me read that real quick. One of the definitions, or one of the angel number definitions I saw. And let me get to the actual website real quick, and I'm gonna wrap this up after this. All right, so this one says angel number 411 means that the steady growth you have been nurturing is about to bloom into a bright new beginning. And it's interesting, bloom, because it is about to be springtime, and a lot of people do feel a new sense of renewal, revival is what I want to say. I don't know why I want to say revival, but kind of being revived from the dead sometimes. But this number can mark a turning point in your personal growth, and even hint at a big spiritual awakening coming your way. Let me see if there's anything else. If this number keeps showing up for you, take it as a sign from your spirit guides that you have all you need to persevere, that difficult times will soon be behind you, and that a positive attitude will take you far. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. The angel number 1, so in the 411, is all about new beginnings, fresh starts, freedom, leadership, and carving out a life that you want to live. Anything about the 4? The presence of the angel number 4 points towards balance, stability, organization, and sourcing your own inner strength. So that mix between being stable and organized, but also that freedom and that fun, and enjoying that there's new beginnings coming, that could be a little bit difficult to balance. But overall, the steady growth that you've been nurturing is about to bloom into a bright beginning. And there's a turning point coming. And I'm excited about that. I'm excited about turning points, even if it may be a little bit uncomfortable to transition from one phase to another. I think we should be excited for what's to come, because even though sometimes we are not in control, we are definitely in control of how we react to things and how we respond. And if we can see, our 3D or what's happening in reality, and give it better meaning, higher meaning, funner meaning, give it more excitement, then we can kind of control, I feel like, our actual experience despite what it looks like. It can look like what it looks like. It could be what it be. It is what it is, but it is up to us to see it in the best light possible, in the funnest way possible, in the most lighthearted way possible. Just like a child who is blowing a bubble. We're not sad when the bubble bursts. We're excited because we can make a new bubble. And we understand that, that's the nature of bubbles. You blow them, you enjoy them, they fall to the ground, they burst, and you get to make another one. And you get to blow 1,000 bubbles at once, or you can get to play around and just do one at a time. You can do whatever you want to do. And I'm just rambling now, so I apologize. But if you're still here, thank you so much for listening, and hopefully this helps somebody. But I had to get it out because I've been guided to speak on these things more often and not be afraid that if I'm saying the wrong thing or rambling too much, it doesn't matter. Somebody needs to hear it, I'm sure. And even if you skipped around, maybe you skipped to the perfect place where you needed to hear. But anyways, enjoying every phase. I'm gonna wrap it up. Enjoying every phase with that childlike fun energy. And knowing that troubles won't last always. And even if it may seem troubling, you can always find those glimmers, the silver lining, the glimmers of hope. We can find our way to have gratitude, so then we can shift our mindset in whatever phase it is. We can always be thinking the highest, the best, the funnest, and see it from a different perspective. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap that up right there. Be a bubble, see things. Okay, I'm gonna stop. Thank you so much for listening. I will see y'all in the next video.